Welcome to the press conference following the European Council meeting on the situation in the Middle East. I'll give the floor to the President of the European Council, Charles Michel, and afterwards to the President of the European Commission, Ursula von der Leyen. President, you have the floor.
Merci beaucoup. Bonsoir à chacune et à chacun. Merci d'être présent pour cette conférence de presse. Nous venons de clôturer la réunion du Conseil européen qui s'est tenue de manière virtuelle. Cette réunion a naturellement démarré par le respect d'une minute de silence. Une minute de silence pour l'ensemble des victimes innocentes qui ont perdu leur vie en Israël et en Palestine, mais également pour les victimes des récentes attaques qui ont eu lieu en Europe et spécialement en France et en Belgique. Mesdames et messieurs, cette réunion du Conseil européen portait sur un sujet grave, un sujet sérieux qui doit nous mobiliser en Européens. Nous mobiliser en Européens, ça veut dire que nous devons guider notre action autour de deux principes, l'unité et la cohérence. L'unité parce que nous sommes une union de valeurs, unité et union de valeurs comme nous l'avons démontré dans le cadre de cette guerre déclenchée par la Russie contre l'Ukraine, et cohérence et crédibilité parce qu'il s'agit toujours, en tout lieu, en tout temps, de se tenir debout pour défendre la paix, pour défendre le droit international et le droit international humanitaire partout, par tout le monde et en tout temps. Il s'agit de l'état de droit qui a du sens sur le plan national, européen et également sur le plan international. Nous avons eu l'occasion également dans cette réunion virtuelle de constater une position très ferme, très solide, très unie des 27 leaders autour de la déclaration qui a été communiquée ce dimanche. C'est une communication qui est extrêmement claire et forte puisque, d'une part, nous condamnons dans les termes les plus sévères les attaques terroristes du Hamas contre Israël et contre la population d'Israël. Nous affirmons le droit d'Israël à se défendre dans le respect du droit international et du droit international humanitaire. Et nous sommes mobilisés comme Union européenne pour soutenir de façon humanitaire les populations les plus vulnérables, les populations les plus fragiles. Nous sommes également engagés en faveur d'un processus de paix pour une paix durable fondée sur la solution à deux États et donc fondée sur le soutien pour l'autorité palestinienne. We had also the occasion today to address the challenges for the days to come and for the weeks to come. And we have tasked our ministers of foreign affairs, we have tasked our ambassadors to work further in different strands of action. First, we are determined to make sure that there will be a constant monitoring with exchange of information among us, between us, exchange of assessments. A maximum coordination will be needed to make sure that we are extremely united on this very important topic. Point two, humanitarian action. And here there are several elements that are important. First, we want to coordinate a lot with the United Nations. And we want to show that we are consequent, that we are coherent. We think that it's very important to make possible the humanitarian access for the people in need, to make sure that they have access to water, to electricity, to food, to the medicines they need. And here I would like to express my emotion feeling this recent information following which an hospital in Gaza has been bombed with a lot of casualties. It is showing the dramatic situation on the ground for the people who are there. And then we have also discussed the question of the hostages. As you may know, I've had the occasion a few days ago to meet some representatives of the families of the victims who are hostages taken by Hamas and who are in Gaza. It was a very emotional and very shocking meeting. We think that this is very important to support the efforts made by some in the region, by some leaders in the region, who are trying to mediate first to clarify what's the status of those hostages, where they are, and what are the conditions for their detention, but also to reiterate once again our call on the immediate release without any conditions of all hostages. I had the occasion to have some talks in the recent days with some of the leaders, and I am told that many efforts are done. We support these efforts to mediate, and I hope to have some success in that important field. Another topic that we have addressed is the evacuation of the foreign civilians who are in Gaza. European citizens, but not only European citizens. Yesterday, I had a phone call with President Lula of Brazil, who also was drawing more attention on this question, and we are also cooperating with other countries across the world in that important field. In a nutshell, humanitarian support, humanitarian assistance, development aid, it means that we need also to be very firm to make sure that the civilians must be protected everywhere. The civilians must be protected. Enfin, à côté de cette nécessité de poursuivre le monitoring permanent, l'action humanitaire, deuxième point, il y a un troisième point qui est essentiel et qui a été beaucoup discuté aujourd'hui, c'est la nécessité d'engager activement sur le plan politique, diplomatique, avec Israël, certainement, et avec l'ensemble des partenaires dans la région. Pas seulement dans la région, mais certainement avec les partenaires dans la région. Et ici, je vois deux objectifs qui sont partagés par l'ensemble des leaders. C'est un engagement politique, un engagement diplomatique avec deux objectifs. Le premier, à court terme et à moyen terme, c'est de tout faire pour éviter l'escalade régionale. Nous savons qu'une extension du conflit sur le plan régional représenterait un danger majeur, d'abord pour la région bien entendu, mais également pour nous en Européens et pour le monde dans son ensemble, et certainement dans un moment où, ne l'oublions pas, il y a une guerre déclenchée par la Russie contre l'Ukraine qui est également dans le voisinage direct de l'Union européenne sur le continent européen. Et puis engager les États de la région, c'est aussi faire la bonne analyse sur la situation dans un certain nombre de pays, le Liban, la Jordanie, l'Égypte par exemple. L'Égypte, je vais y revenir, mesurer la situation pour ces pays directement voisins de la zone où le conflit se déroule. Enfin, il y a un quatrième point que je souhaiterais mentionner. And this fourth point is the domestic security on the European continent. In the European Union. We know very well that this conflict has a lot of resonance everywhere across the world, and it's a conflict which is generating a lot of fragmentation, of divisions, of polarizations among our people, among our societies, and that's why we need also to cooperate at the European Union's level to try to diffuse the tensions, to try to prevent the security risks, and also to strengthen the cooperation between our security services. And certainly, it's very important to make sure that we are fighting against the hatred speeches, against the anti-Semitism, and all other forms of hatred, Islamophobia, racism, all the speeches which are trying to fuel discriminations among our citizens, among our people. This is also a very firm message that we have expressed, all of us, today. And then one last important topic for us, and we need to work on the question, this is migration. You know that the recent months we have been working a lot, including at the level of the European Council, on this very important topic. We have tried to show solidarity with some countries at the front line, like Italy, for instance. And we know, if we take the example of a country like Egypt, with millions of refugees in this country, that the situation can have a very difficult impact, very serious consequences for this country, and it can also have direct consequences for us in Europe. That's why it's so important to engage with Egypt. This is one example, but an important example to address a broad partnership with this country, including on migration, including in cooperating with Egypt to facilitate some possible humanitarian access to Gaza, which I hope will be possible to make possible this access to Gaza. S'agissant de l'Égypte, nous avons également noté que l'Égypte a marqué de façon très nette et très forte dans de nombreux contacts politiques et diplomatiques que l'Égypte ne souhaitait pas ouvrir la frontière avec Gaza. Le point de passage a d'ailleurs été bombardé et semble avoir été détruit. Ne souhaitait pas ouvrir ce point de passage pour une série de raisons liées au fait que l'Égypte accueille déjà plusieurs millions de réfugiés d'une part, mais également liées au fait que l'Égypte voit là une menace pour la capacité de maintenir la solution à 2 États, s'il devait y avoir des mouvements de population. Je ne prends pas parti sur ce sujet, mais j'indique simplement que ce point a été communiqué fortement par l'Égypte. Enfin, je voudrais partager un dernier commentaire, une dernière réflexion avec vous. Dans un moment tel que celui-ci, le devoir de notre génération politique en européen, c'est de ne pas perdre de vue l'essence de ce projet politique, l'union pour des valeurs, l'union pour la paix, pour la sécurité, pour la prospérité. Et notre devoir, c'est de regarder avec lucidité la carte du monde. Et je constate que, sans doute, il y a un pays qui bénéficie au moins indirectement de cette escalade grave de violence dans cette région du monde, c'est la Russie. Et certainement, la Russie va tenter, et a déjà commencé à tenter, d'instrumentaliser cette situation pour tenter de nourrir un narratif contre l'Union européenne, contre les partenaires de l'Union européenne, et singulièrement de nourrir un narratif pour tenter de démontrer qu'il y aurait dans le monde ceux qui défendent le multilatéralisme et un monde fondé sur des règles, mais qu'en réalité, il y aurait une tentation de mettre en œuvre des doubles standards. Ne tombons pas dans ce piège-là. Restons très fidèles à nos valeurs fondées sur les principes d'humanité, les principes de dignité personnelle, les principes de respect pour les droits humains qui sont traduits dans le droit de la guerre et dans le droit international. Et je souhaite terminer cette conférence de presse en vous disant qu'il est de notre devoir, de notre responsabilité, de rester extrêmement déterminés pour soutenir l'Ukraine aussi longtemps qu'il sera nécessaire. Nous allons rester mobilisés. L'Ukraine sera à l'ordre du jour du prochain Conseil européen, alors que nous démarrerons nos discussions sur l'évaluation du MFF, du budget européen. Et ensuite, de manière opérationnelle, je conclus par cela, nos ministres de l'Intérieur vont se réunir dans les prochains jours cette semaine-ci pour adresser un certain nombre de sujets liés au débat tenu au Conseil européen. Les ministres des Affaires étrangères se réuniront ce lundi. Ils pourront également aller plus loin dans l'analyse des actions que nous devons entreprendre pour veiller à ce que nos valeurs et nos intérêts soient défendus avec lucidité et avec fermeté dans un moment qui est tellement douloureux et pour lequel tellement de familles dans cette région, mais également en Europe et dans le monde, sont affectées. Je vous remercie.
Thank you, President. President von der Leyen, you have the floor.
Thank you very much. First, I would like to express my deep sorrow following the recent terror attacks that took place in France and in Belgium. And I offer my heartfelt condolences to the families of the victims, including, of course, in Sweden. We met today at this European Council, VTC, because of another heinous terror attack perpetrated by Hamas on Israel. 1,400 Israelis and other nationals massacred in one single day. Hamas taking close to 200 hostages. We call for the immediate release. In Israel, I spoke to families that have, for example, their 82-year-old grandmother abducted by Hamas, a mother that was desperately looking for her 22-year-old daughter abducted by Hamas from the festival in Israel. In face of this, it is clear to everyone that Israel has the right to defend itself in line with international and humanitarian law. But that is not all. Hamas terror is also bringing immense suffering to the Palestinian people. And let me be very clear. I was on Friday in Israel in the kibbutz Kfar Aza. This was the first place I went to. I saw the blood. I saw the burned down houses. I saw children's toys. No child will ever play with them anymore. There, in the presence of the Speaker of the Knesset, I said very clearly that it is Hamas who are the terrorists, not the Palestinian people. So we have to care for the Palestinian people and their humanitarian needs. There is no contradiction in standing with Israel in solidarity and acting for the humanitarian needs for the Palestinians. On Saturday, I spoke to Antonio Guterres. I informed him that the Commission is tripling the humanitarian aid for Palestinians in this year. We're also establishing an air bridge to Egypt, close to Gaza, in order to be in a position to quickly deliver aid across the border. We are in contact with the Egyptian authorities to enable our aid to enter Gaza from Egypt, and Commission staff is in Egypt to prepare for the delivery of humanitarian aid into Gaza. We're also explaining to the Israeli authorities that providing water to Gaza is essential. This is a basic human right. On the broader issue of financial support and development aid for Palestine, I am not aware of any EU funding going to any terrorist organization, and it has to stay like this. And this is why we're conducting an internal review and will coordinate with member states carrying out their own reviews. On the wider regional context, I've been recently talking to several Arab leaders. All were very clear about the importance of our EU funding and that these events have the potential to draw the entire region into conflict, and this would put in doubt the positive impact of our entire neighbourhood funding. Just as an example, about 10% of the entire budget of the Palestinian Authority's funding comes from the European Union. Or take Egypt. Egypt is already hosting substantial numbers of refugees. We must work and support Egypt in this current crisis and establish a comprehensive partnership. Allow me to conclude on a last crucial thought. Some believe that they can distract us from supporting Ukraine and that we have to choose whom to support. We will prove them wrong. We stand by our friends in their time of need for as long as it takes. It is important that our proposal for the MFF now is being processed, and lots of support for Ukraine is in the making because we know that they are fighting for our values and we stand by them for as long as it takes.
Thank you, President. We will continue with questions from the room. I'll take 2 questions from the room and 1 from online. Susanna?
Thank you, Susana Frestes. I see Portugal. President, you mentioned the attack against this hospital, so I suppose you have more info and that this is confirmed. So I would like to understand, is this respecting the humanitarian or the international law? So what is your view? And I also would like to understand, when do you expect Egypt to open the border and to let also the Europeans to come out and to also to provide and to move forward with the humanitarian corridors? Thank you.
No, on the first question, we got this information when we were together doing this virtual meeting with the leaders. It seems to be confirmed, and an attack against a civilian infrastructure is not in line with the international law. This is my first point. On Egypt, I just mentioned, because this should be clear for everyone in Europe, that for Egypt there's a very clear position on the idea that they do not intend to allow people from Gaza to leave Gaza and to be hosted in Egypt. But we are working with all the leaders in the region to try to organize the evacuation of foreign civilians, point 1, and we are also working with all the leaders of the region in order to make possible the humanitarian access to be able to provide to the people in need what they need and to meet their basic needs.
President von der Leyen, would you like to add? Or we take...
We can take the next question because I have just been informed about the incident. I need confirmation. I cannot comment at this moment. But on the question of Egypt, as I said, Commission staff is on the ground in Egypt working intensively on facilitating that the humanitarian aid that we are now bringing. I think we start with the 2 first flights this week still to Egypt. Can proceed into Gaza. This is of utmost importance that we now deliver this humanitarian aid.
Andrew?
Gray from Reuters. A question for both presidents. President Michel, you stressed the importance of a common EU position. Can I ask you both if you endorse the view of the High Representative, which she expressed after a meeting of the foreign ministers, that Israel has already contravened international humanitarian law by imposing a total blockade on Gaza? Thank you.
A total siege when you cut the basic infrastructure, when you cut access to water, when you cut electricity, if you don't allow food to be delivered. This is not in line with the international law.
Okay, we'll go over to President von der Leyen if you want to add something. Otherwise, we go to the third question.
Yes, I think it is very important to look at the statement we had agreed on today. That is the leader's statement, and it concludes the position of the European Council, of which I am a member.
Mindaugas from Lithuania, you have the floor. You raised your hand online.
Yeah. Thank you so much for this opportunity. Mindaugas Laukagalis from Lithuanian National Radio and Television. I have a question to both presidents. Was yesterday's terror attack in Brussels discussed, or at least mentioned in the discussion about internal EU security? And today, French president said that Islamist terrorism is basically returning to Europe. Do you share this assessment? And, do you share this assessment that the threat of terrorist attacks in the EU is bigger now than it was, for example, before Israel conflict? Thank you.
Premièrement, oui, bien entendu, cette terrible attaque qui est une attaque lâche, qui est intervenue à Bruxelles hier soir et qui a mené à l'assassinat de civils innocents a été discuté et mentionné. Et encore une fois, les condoléances ont été exprimées vers les familles des victimes. C'est un premier point. Pour avoir été un Premier ministre en Belgique qui a été confronté à ces tragiques attentats qui ont eu lieu à Bruxelles à la suite des attentats qui avaient lieu à Paris, nous mesurons bien que la menace est présente, elle était présente et probablement elle est davantage encore parce que les tensions, les conflits donnent lieu à une aggravation des risques de violence. Et c'est en cela que, parmi les points que j'ai évoqués, un des sujets qui doit nous mobiliser, c'est le travail pour tenter de rassembler nos sociétés, pour tenter de contrer les discours de haine, de prévenir les attaques violentes et de faire coopérer davantage nos services de sécurité.
What we have seen these days is that terror is resurfacing, and the member states are highly vigilant to this topic. The more it is important that we do everything possible to de-escalate in the region affected, to de-escalate the tensions in the wider region, and to do everything to go back to the discussions that had been so fruitful between Arab countries and Israel, to support this process as much as possible, and to do everything, as I said, to care for the humanitarian needs of those people who are at the moment being in need of support, not only in Gaza Strip, but also in that region.
Thank you. I think this concludes the press conference. Thank you very much for coming so late.